How's it going, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Brian, and today it is a bit of a downer now because obviously the Euros have completely finished, but in a great news coming up, we have the Premier League coming back. So I thought, what better way to get back into the football spirit than doing a predictions league? Now, we have a special guest on the channel. We have Jonny from the Fly Zappers podcast, who I was on at Christmas time. Do you want to say hello, Jonny?
Hi guys, how you doing?
What we're going to be doing is we're going to be running through all the games in game week 1, giving our score prediction, and we're going to this at a head-to-head rate. So how this is going to work is Jonny and I will be going up against each other, who will be getting the correct result, which will be 3 points, and the correct score, which will be 5 points. And at the end of the game week, we will find out who is the winner. Now, if there is anyone out there who does want to take part in this, please give me a shout out down below in the comments and we'll try and get you along to next week's video. So if you want to stay up to date with all the other content coming on this channel, please make sure to drop a sub down below. Let me know how you like it. And without any further ado, let's just get into it. So, Jonny, we have Brentford versus my boys Arsenal. Brentford are obviously a bit of a miraculous team to come through because I don't think they've ever been in the Premier League in the last 50 years, or might have even been a bit further back than that. But they've actually produced some good players recently. What do you think on this one?
I don't think they've ever been in the Premier League. Is my understanding of it.
Yeah.
I could be wrong in that. Yeah, I think they've got a really fantastic business model there. They've obviously got their sister club in FC Midtjylland,
Yeah.
that they sort of use as a sort of feeder. They've just signed the midfielder Oyokoyo, or whatever you want to call him. Looks a really good player. They've brought in Chris Ayer from Celtic, someone who has wanted to go on and test himself at that level.
Yeah.
And they've got the guy up front, Ivan Toney, who can score goals for fun. And I believe he can kind of similar to Ollie Watkins last season. I think Toney can go on and have a good season in the Premier League this season, get into double figures.
Yeah, I had Tony on my shortlist for the Premier League draft I was doing yesterday, but unfortunately someone else pinched him. And obviously Ayer's a bit of a player that's close to both of our hearts, being Celtic fans as well. And we've got to just give the boy credit. Like, he does deserve to chance himself in the Premier League as well, because it is a good move for him at the end of the day and good business.
Yeah, he does. He was a fantastic player for us. There was a lot of players weren't given maximum effort for Celtic last season, but Ayer wasn't one of those. He still, as much as we all knew he wanted to leave and he wanted to go last summer, he still gave everything for the club,
Yeah.
even though he didn't want to be there.
No, he did, and fair play to him. So, what did you think is the score going to be? Because obviously Arsenal have improved slightly by bringing in people like Ben White and that new left back that's going to be competing with against Tierney, who's another boy close to our hearts, obviously. What do
Yeah.
you think this one's going to be?
I think you're right. I think Arsenal. I think White's a good player. I think he fits into their style of play.
Mm-hmm.
I worry a bit about Arsenal. I worry a bit that Arteta's implemented this tiki-taka system, but without the purpose. And a lot
Yeah,
of managers fall into that trap when they implement tiki-taka. As Guardiola often says, well, yeah, we want to keep the ball, but we want to put it in the back of the net. Um, I think Arsenal are going to get off to a slow start this season. I fancy Brentford to come out and go for it. And for that reason, I'm going to go for one each.
one each. It's going to be a draw. I've got to go completely against you on that one because obviously Arsenal is my English team and I've supported them for a long time now. But I think this could be an easy. I would say 3-0, but I'm going to go for a 2-0 Arsenal. I think Ben White might come out, and I don't think Brentford are going to adjust completely to getting into the Premier League. So obviously, it's going to be a big shock for their fans and players. So I'm going to go for a 2-0 Arsenal.
To be fair,
Yeah, I don't expect that at all. Where's my text? Right, there we go. Okay, so starting then on the Saturday games, we have Man United versus Leeds, a big derby that would have been probably back in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s era.
still is,
Yeah.
still is.
So, what do you think for this one?
So for this one, I think undoubtedly Man United have made some really good signings this summer. One of them isn't going to be quite over the line. I don't think in time
Mm-hmm.
for the game, which is Rafael Varane. I
Yeah,
think he could be transformative to the defence. That's not doing a disservice to any of their defenders. I really do. I think Harry Maguire is a really good defender, but I do think he needs a classier operator next to him who can work with the ball at his feet. In
yeah,
terms of just raw defending, Maguire's really good, and as long as he's in defence, they've got a chance of keeping the scoreline low at one end. And as long as they've got Bruno Fernandes in the team, then they've got a chance of creating goals. Um, Sancho as well. Sancho's going to be in that team. I
Yep,
was about to comment on Rashford missing through injury, but Sancho's going to be in that team. Another guy who can create a barrel load of chances. I guess my main concern for United is, do they have that top class finisher? Cavani, even at his age, you can put the ball in the
he
back of the
is.
net.
He was brilliant for fantasy points, like leading up from, I'd say, February. He was doing
Yeah.
absolutely class.
So I think if they can keep Cavani fit,
Yeah,
and sort of have him in and out with Greenwood, because people were talking a lot about Haaland coming in and maybe even going for Harry Kane, but I think people underestimate Cavani's that classy operator. Greenwood is raw, but he looks a great wee player.
he
I
can do
fancy
the
Cavani
job.
to start the game. Yeah, he looks so good, and I personally don't think United are going to go for a striker. I think they view Mason Greenwood as the long term strategy there, and some of the finishes that boy has in the Premier League. So I remember one away at West Ham where Maguire got injured. He put it away so nicely in the bottom left corner, bottom right corner, depending on your perspective of the ground and the team that
Yeah,
you're. Um, I think. I think that's going to be their strategy this season. I think they're going to have Inwood in and out, Greenwood in and out, in and out, and Cavani is their sort of main focal point. If he can keep fit, Man United could have a really good season, with both Sancho and Fernandez now creating chances. I fancy them to score quite a lot of goals, and when the Rashford comes back, they're only going to get even better. However, what I would say is Leeds have proven that they are a balls to the wall, fantastic counter attacking team.
yeah.
Um, and I would fancy them to go and give Man United a really good game at Old Trafford, make life uncomfortable for the defenders, run at them all day, and I'm going to go for United 3, Leeds 2.
Big 3-2, both teams to score situation. I actually remember last year when Leeds played their first game against Liverpool, after Liverpool obviously just won the league. I know
Class.
they lost that game 4-3, but that
Yeah.
was one of the best games of the entire season because it was a team that was newly promoted and that they won through on playoff, didn't they? Or did they finish second in the
No,
championship the year
I
before?
think they won. I think
Did
they
they?
won. Yeah, I think so. I
Okay.
think they did.
But they were unbelievable in that game. And they proved throughout the year, as you were saying, like people, like they finished mid table, which is very rare for a newly promoted team. So I've
Yeah,
got
they
to give
were.
Leeds credit.
Yeah.
I do think, though, that Man United have a lot on, like they are still going to probably be the better team on the day. But I'm going to go for just slightly less than you in that. I think it's going to be a 2-1.
2-1.
Yeah, I just don't think Man United are going to score 3 past Leeds. But saying that is, I don't think Leeds have got the ability to score 2 either. So I think it's going to be a Man United win, but I think it's going to be closer in a 2-1.
Okay. Well, I hope you're wrong.
I hope you're wrong too. That's fine. Okay, moving on to Burnley and Brighton. Now,
Yep.
this is the 3 o'clock kickoffs where it's obviously not TV highlights, but Brighton have obviously lost one of their best players to Arsenal and Ben White. And
Mhm.
Sean Dyche is obviously managing one of these clubs that they were in Europa League, I think, 3 years ago, or at least in the qualifiers when they had that like out of nowhere league. But I
Yeah.
think Burnley is one of these teams that their stay in the Premier League is going to be a bit rocky at some point. And that's no doubt on Sean Dyche. It's just I think there is going to be a little of a slope at one point.
the, the
Um,
the job that Sean Dyche has done with
it's
such limited
fantastic. Like it's
he doesn't play the
fantastic.
sexiest football, but he's done an absolutely fantastic job. I mean, last season they finished one place above relegation, but that's where
Yeah,
Burnley are at budget wise. I think Burnley
yeah,
probably budget in the league, if not second or whatever. But I think he's done a fabulous job. They've not strengthened this summer, but more importantly, they've not lost any of their best players. They've kept Chris Wood, which I
that's
think
the
is so.
player going to shout out there as well. Yeah,
Chris Wood's goals keep them in that league. He seems quite happy there. The style of football suits him. He's a really good player. As a friend of mine once said, the Kiwi Vieri, um, which I thought was a bit over the top, but I get it. What I would say about Brighton is I think he's a good manager. He's a modern, progressive thinking manager. He plays
yeah,
this attractive style of football that people want to see, and I think it's admirable that he's trying to do it at a club where, let's face it, the players are limited. Because how much do we moan about people playing the football that Sean Dyche and Sam Allardyce and all that play? We moan about it all the time.
yeah,
But for clubs with players of limited ability at that level, it gets results, and Potter's going against that. but it does leave them open to some hidings. It really does, because their players, quite simply at that level, probably aren't good enough to execute it on a consistent enough basis.
Yeah,
I think the thing about Brighton is they create an awful lot of chances, but concede
I
an awful lot of
remember.
chances as well. And the difference between them and other teams is they don't have that clinical striker, whereas other teams do. And I watch them and they play some lovely stuff and they create barrel loads of chances, and they just don't have somebody to put it in the back of the net. And places like Burnley are a nightmare for teams like that.
Yeah,
They really are. So for that reason, I'm going to go 1-0 Burnley.
fair enough. See, I think Brighton's one of them teams. It's like they will go and beat Arsenal and Liverpool in a one-off game in the season, but then they'll come up against Norwich and they'll lose 1-0. They're
Yeah,
one of them teams
because
that are unpredictable.
well, I think the difference there and where they really struggle is, see, Arsenal, Man City, Liverpool. They don't go and try and play Brighton. Man
Mhm.
City, Liverpool, all these top teams sort of go and play,
Yeah,
and it's meant to be the opposition that's playing them, not the other way around. Whereas when Brighton go, the teams in the bottom half of the table know that Brighton are actually quite a good team and they play some really nice football, so they set up tactically to defend that. And I think that's really what we're seeing happening there. I don't think necessarily, Pep Guardiola worries too much about what Brighton are going to do. I think he concerns himself far more in what his Man City team are going to do,
yeah,
and that's why I think sometimes you see results like that from Brighton. It works in their favour sometimes, but yeah, when they're up against a solid back line, low block, they really struggle, because they create a lot less chances, in those types of games. And what you need in those types of games with your reduced amount of chances, let's just say they're creating 50% less chances, that might be 9 shots a game, 4 in target. You need a striker, a clinical striker that's going to be putting 1 or 2 of those away, and they don't have that.
yeah. And just on the back of the point I was saying beforehand, it's Brighton up against Burnley is one of them teams where they probably would slip up against because they would think they might have that chance to go forward, and they always seem to like lose or draw against teams around them and beat the bigger
Yeah,
teams. So on that, I'm actually going to go for a bit of a bigger goal difference on that. I'm going to go for a 3-1 Burnley.
three
Just
one
think,
Burnley.
yeah, I've just got a feeling. I think they're going to
Mm,
get a goal, but I think that Burnley are going to come out because, as you say, Chris Wood's a threat. And I think that he's not really, he didn't do much towards the latter stage of the season, but he still got it in his locker for scoring a couple of goals against the teams either around him or a bit lower.
Yeah,
As well as I think they've still got Tarkovsky if he stays fit. And
yeah,
he's one of them players that I think he's just solid. He is an absolute unit of a man.
good
Uh,
player. Really like him. He fits into that system really, really well.
yeah, so I think it's going to be a 3-1 at Burnley.
Mhm.
Okay, moving on to one of the bigger teams. Obviously, we have the Champions League winners versus a Crystal Palace that is still managing to hold on Zaha even without Roy Hodgson anymore. I think
Yeah.
this one's going to be a bit of a landslide. This could be I'm going to go for a 5-0 Chelsea.
Okay. Yeah, I think Tuchel's proven the caliber of manager he is. Not brought anyone in yet. Lukaku's a game-changing signing for them, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, the amount of chances that they created last season, but they just didn't have that clinical striker to put them away. I actually really like Havertz,
Oh, he's
and
class.
sorry, not Havertz, Werner. Sorry,
Yeah.
I really like Werner. I think he was so unlucky last season. He plays off the shoulder,
Yeah.
and see the amount of goals that he got chalked off for a couple of millimeters
Oh,
at
it's
the start.
brutal.
He had a
He hit the
stunning
post.
amount of goals chalked off. It
How
was
many
double.
times? I was going to say, how many times did he hit the post last year? Oh, was it
And he
like
hit.
7?
He was just so. He was just so. It was just this close. And I don't. I actually think he is more. I actually think he is more suited to playing out in the left, see for them breaking, getting the
Mhm.
ball to him and him gaining yards. And I get a lot of assists. He get more assists than he did goals last season. His
Yeah.
assists, I'm pretty sure, were in the double figures. So he's still an important player for them, but I think Tuchel's realised the need for that stretch. I mean, the way I tend to look at it is your top class strikers are going to put away, 1 in every 3 chances.
Yeah.
That's what your top class strikers are going to do. Your really good ones are 1 every 5, 1 every 7, and that's for me sort of the way it goes until you get to the other end of the spectrum where you're probably back to the striker only getting one chance.
A
Um,
game. Yeah.
a game, but they only do it one every 10 games
Yeah.
or whatever, you know. For these guys, what I'm talking about, one every 3 chances overall per game, you know, they'll put those away. They miss one and they'll come back for more. I think Lukaku's the guy to do that. Werner, man, he was just so close last season. I really, really like him, but I think he's still going to play a big part for Chelsea this season. Imagine
Hmm.
his service onto Lukaku. Lukaku's not going to be ready for that game. I think they'll go with probably Werner up front.
Yeah,
Um,
I think he's still on hold at the minute. The deal
yeah,
still hasn't officially gone through, but a representative from Chelsea says it is going to happen. It came out today
he's
on
in
Sky
London.
Sports. Yeah,
He's
he's there. It's just something to do with a technical reason about something happening in Italy.
yeah. So I expect that to happen. I expect tomorrow Chelsea to win. I'm going to be a bit more pessimistic than you are, purely based on the fact that they were playing in the Super Cup last night and they might be a bit leggy.
I
Although
did
at this
forget
point,
about that actually.
I'm going to go 3-0
3-0.
Chelsea. Yeah,
No worries. Okay, moving on to Everton Southampton. What
yeah,
do you reckon on this one? Because Everton haven't really done much like business at the minute compared to
no,
last year when they brought in obviously James Rodriguez
hmm
and there was a bit more going on. But even with Southampton, they've lost Danny Ings. That's
yeah.
huge. Like,
I fear for Southampton. I really
yeah,
do. They've lost Danny Ings. They've lost Yannick Vestergaard, who's in Leicester, completing a move today. Um, I fear for them. I really, really do. Um, Everton haven't really strengthened, but they've got a core group of really good players there, and they haven't really lost anybody.
yeah,
I think Benitez is a really good, keenly organised manager. They've got a striker who can put the ball in the back of the net. They've got some good creative players, and they've got half decent defenders. But with Benitez will make those defenders better. There's no doubt about that.
yeah.
I'm going to go for 2-0 Everton.
2-0.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've got to agree in the terms that they've obviously got Richarlison, who on his day is one of the best strikers around. But that, as you said at a point earlier on, them days might be one in every 7 games or so. Like
yeah,
he's unplayable at the time. And I've got to give a big shout out to Michael Keane as well. I think he's quite an underrated centre back that doesn't get the credit he deserves in the Premier League. And if you look at Everton's run of games, they don't play anyone in the top 6, or they might have one top 16 until the start of November. So
yeah,
their run of games is brilliant. So they
yeah,
might want to start this off with a bit of a roundhouse kick and literally get a really good high up on the league table like they did last year. But Everton
yeah.
being Everton after Christmas always seems to drop off. But I think
Pretty
this year with having Benitez and obviously they had Ancelotti, both of them huge managers in the scene of Europe going back into the 2000s. I do think
yeah.
this is going to be an Everton win though, and I'm going to go with a 1-0 Everton win.
Who would have
Yeah,
thought? Who would
1-0.
have thought? See, when you were looking at that 2005 Champions League final between Liverpool and AC Milan, Liverpool, whatever way you
Yeah.
want to look at, who would have thought the two managers of that night would have been concurrent Everton managers in
I
the future?
know, back-to-back Everton managers, but even Benitez going from Newcastle to Everton, like,
No, Benitez went from Newcastle he went over to China.
oh, didn't he? He did when
Yeah,
he over
way
to China
back
and then back.
from Fortune. Yeah.
Yeah,
Conspiracy theories say that COVID was actually his fault.
wow.
Don't ask. Don't ask.
Uh, he's the one that brought it to the UK and put us on
Listen, all
lockdown.
I'm saying is he went there, and then very shortly after he went there was the COVID outbreak.
So it could be the Geordies' fault. He could have done something over there.
Well. When he was actually questioned by the Chinese government about it, he blamed it on Mike Ashley not giving him enough money for better defenders.
It's
For
true
better,
though. So
yeah,
it's even go back to Sports Direct.
indeed, yeah.
Could go as high as that.
I always knew those big mugs would fuck us.
They do good socks though.
Good song. You're a Slazenger, man.
Oh man, definitely. They're the best swimming shorts I've ever had. You've got so many different pockets with zips in them.
Funny. Love it.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on. We have a bit of a Midlands derby here with Leicester versus Wolves. Are they the only two teams now in the Midlands?
No,
Villa, and yeah, that's it. Them three.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah,
Leicester, they've obviously lost Fafana, which I think is a big loss. But I think they're obviously getting Vestergaard in. They've
Yeah.
got Sayung, they've got Jonny Evans still, so they should be all right. They've not lost anyone, Leicester, which
Yet.
is quite key. I'm surprised there's not more interest in Tielemans. I think he's a fabulous player.
I'm talking
Uh,
about James Maddison.
Tielemans is far superior to Maddison in my opinion. I like Maddison. I think he's a good wee player.
Yeah.
Uh, he's not in the same class as Tielemans, in my opinion.
Fair enough.
But yeah. So anyway, I think obviously Jamie Vardy still seems to be firing in all cylinders. They've got this boy, is it Saka, in from
Yeah.
Leipzig? I mean, obviously they'd put in a bid for Odson Edwards, and that bid was accepted. But apparently the reason it didn't happen is Edwards. I mean, as we've seen last season, I think the boy thinks he's better than what he is. He was after 85 grand a week.
Yeah, that ain't happening.
The harsh reality for Edward is he's maybe not as good as he thinks he is. He's a really good player.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I was reading a story where the Leicester Chiefs and football management side of things, part of the reason they moved on to Saka wasn't just the wages, but it's they felt, in their words, he had a higher potential ceiling. They felt he could become a better player than Edward could. And that's just a reality that Edward needs to sort of wrap his head round a little bit. But anyway, I'm getting off piece a little bit there. They've obviously got Ian Atchell, who found his shooting boots last season.
He's honestly one of my favourite players in the Premier League. He saved my fantasy career.
Yeah. He had a great second half to last season. He was brilliant.
Huge guy.
Even then, he's just a bloody nuisance to defenders. Even if he's not scoring, he's creating space for others. And Wolves, to be honest, at the moment, they're a wee bit of an unknown entity to me. They've got this new manager in Rudy. Is it Rui Faria or something like that?
I'm not even sure his name, but I'll take your word for that.
Portuguese chap. Managed Benfica. I don't think he set the header alight with them. But he's an unknown entity, and this can happen in the Premier League. We see various different things happening with unknown entities. We see Mauricio Pochettino's, whereby he comes in and he's a complete revelation. It turns out he's a world-class manager. You get Marco Silva's, discounting Hull. He had a great first half of the season with Watford. And then just totally capitulated after Christmas and gets sacked. And then obviously the torrid time at Everton. And then you have, Pedro Caixinhas, who come in and just are bumbling about and don't know what they're doing. Notice how I went with all Portuguese managers there. I didn't mean to single out the Portuguese nation. I'm sorry to the Portuguese people. But your managers are an example of what can happen. And I'll tell a lie, Mauricio Pochettino's Argentinian. I apologise to the nation of Argentina for confusing Mauricio Pochettino as a Portuguese man.
Yeah.
Let's just move on.
That might be a good idea. He just signed Messi. He doesn't care what we say right now.
He doesn't give a shit. I think Wolves are an unknown entity. I think Leicester have... The key thing for me is they've kept that squad together. I think that squad has another year in them before they need to refresh and get some other players in.
Yeah.
I fancy Leicester to win this game. I'm going to go conservatively, and I'm going to say 2-1 Leicester.
Yeah, I've got to agree. But one of the things you missed to mention there, it's worth bringing up with Leicester, is they've actually proven themselves from the last 2 years that they can compete in Europe as well as compete at club level at the same time. Whereas Wolves, obviously, with playing alongside in Europe, did not have the best year. So they sort of detached for that. So as well as not having the midweek games, obviously say that we're doing a predictions of game week 1 where none of that's going to come in. But down the line, I think that Leicester's got a bit of the stamina and at least a bit more squad rotation more. With Wolves having Jimenez back, is he going to be as good as he was? Because obviously that cracked skull was a bit of a nightmare for him, and Wolves really missed him last year. But I do think that
challenging to get over.
Huge. They're very little players.
Yeah. Do you know, I actually think Wolves have made a mistake letting Nuno go. I really do. I think it was a really tough season last season for multiple reasons, and I think under the circumstances they did okay. Wolves, listen, what people need to understand about the Premier League is, see out with the big six. See for the rest of the teams in that league, all it takes is a couple of bad injuries and they could get relegated.
Easily,
that's the margins in that league, and we've seen it happening. We've seen it happening. And Wolves are the sort of team, as much as I think they've got good players and they're good, a couple of bad injuries and a bad run of form or a bit of bad luck, they could get relegated, and they could have got relegated last season. And I think under the circumstances, I think he actually did a good job, and I think Wolves were a bit premature in letting him go.
No, that's fair enough as well. So you've went for a 2-1. I still think
Yeah.
it's going to be a Leicester win. I'm going to go for. I might have to match you on that one. I think a 2-1 is a right enough score because I
Okay.
think Wolves could still get one in. And I think a 2-1 is a fair enough score because I think Schmeichel's obviously approaching the end of his league. He had an amazing World Cup, to be fair, or Euros, sorry, to be fair to Denmark. But I do think that he's got a mistake in him. Although that penalty or the penalty he saved against England still breaks my heart.
There you are. Never
Yeah.
mind.
Moving on, we have Watford versus Aston Villa. Now, obviously, Villa have done an amazing season last year and have improved as well. Selling Jack Grealish for £100 million.
Yeah.
Like they would have just been like, yeah, fine. Do you want a lift? Will we take you? Will we take him over? Because that is an astonishing amount of money for a player that didn't even play 90 minutes in the Euros and is a bit injury prone. But Man City have their cash; they can do what they want with it. And I don't really think Watford's got much going for them. They're just one of them teams that have went down and back up. I can just see them being one of the teams that's going straight back down again. They're coming up and going down. So I think for this one, with Danny Ings coming into Aston Villa, who's a proven Premier League goal scorer, even at no matter what level, I think I'm going to go for a 2-0 Aston Villa.
Okay. You know, I'm a Grealish fan actually. I'm a big Grealish fan. I think he's a fabulous player. I don't think they did bite City's hand off. They got to remember it was a release clause.
Yeah.
I don't think they did bite City's hand off for it at all. Actually, I think by all accounts they tried to convince Grealish to stay because I think he's worth so much to that team. If you look at the record with and without him in the team, then it speaks for itself. I think City have got a really, really good player. In my opinion, I don't think any player's worth £100 million, but that's where we are in football, and City have
Yeah.
got the money. I've got the money to spend. I think it's a shrewd signing from City because one area that they really lack in my opinion, is they're fantastic, obviously, at keeping a hold of the ball, and it's difficult getting the ball away from them. But see, they sometimes just need that man that can take the ball past a couple of defenders, and
Yeah.
sometimes that's lacking. Sometimes, listen, this got to remember what City are now doing is we are talking a really, really excellent bloody team. What they're trying to do is just make tweaks that will make them see those games that they drop points in.
Yeah.
They're just now making the signings that get them over the line in those games. Similarly, the way they sort of were just pipped to the Champions League with Chelsea, they're just making the signings that are going to just raise the level that little bit because that's all they need to do. But to do that at that level, clearly it costs £100 million per
Yeah.
player. To do that, it's margins. Anyway, sorry. Back to this game. I think Dean Smith's a good manager. I think he's proven he's a good manager. I think he's made some good signings. I think Bundy is a really good signing. The fact the fact that they won him over Arsenal is hilarious to me.
Yeah.
They've brought in a few decent players. I think Danny Ings was a shocking. I couldn't believe he went to Aston Villa. I was quite surprised by that.
It was
I
good
was
money though, wasn't it? Like a
25
good,
mil,
yeah,
25 mil.
that's a
I was
bargain.
convinced. I was convinced he was going to go to Spurs.
Yeah.
Convinced. So when he went to Villa, I was quite surprised by that. But I think a really good signing. I think it suggests to me a change in system, where they're going to get the two strikers on the pitch. Perhaps Watkins is a deeper line playmaker, so that he can deeper line striker. Sorry,
Yeah.
because he can be a creative wee bugger as well. He can
He's
thread through.
rapid too. He's got legs in him.
He does, yeah. So I think they're going to try and give defenders problems, create space with the two strikers. They've got Buendia who can create chances for fun. We all know what McGinn's all about. Yeah, I like Villa this season. I think the chap at Watford, I can't remember his name. I'm sorry, Watford manager. I think he did a stunning job when he came in because before he came in, they were nowhere. They were
Yeah.
absolutely nowhere. And he came in and he was just relentless and they were fantastic. I actually don't agree. I don't think they will go. I'm not saying they won't go down, but I'm
Yeah.
not saying it's a foregone conclusion. I think they actually could be a surprise package in the Premier League this year. probably need to make one or two more signings, but I think they're going to be a really hard team to play against. However, as you say, opening game of the season, I'm going to go Villa 2-1.
2-1. Quite close then in them scores. On that note, who is your prediction to go down? Like, if you just one out of the three, if you had to pick one team you think will go down, who is it?
Southampton.
Southampton, yeah. It's between them and Watford for me personally, but I think Southampton staying in the Premier League has come to an end. Like,
listen, Watford definitely would be in my bottom five.
I
don't think they're going to go and do what Leeds did. All I'm saying is, I think I think they're going to be a tough team to play against.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. I don't think they're going. I think Crystal Palace could go down as well, personally.
Yeah. What would that leave for Zaha? He'd probably definitely move on then. They couldn't hold on to him for another season.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me as if just nobody wants him. That's what it seems like to me. No, I'm not aware of any bids that have gone in for him.
It was about 2 years ago, Arsenal did, and they were just like, nah, not happening. You're not going away anywhere. And then he didn't have the best of seasons, so obviously his values went down.
Yeah. So, I think I fancy Palace to go down. I do. I fancied them to go down for last season, actually, and I was wrong. But
Roy Hodgson just done a job.
Yeah, he done a job, and Vieira's done it. He's done a wee bit in France. He also done a bit in America, and Vieira's a legend of the sport and stuff like that. I think that's a tough job, that Palace job. I really do.
Yeah, they're another team that is just hanging on. Well, not really hanging on, but their stay could be up at any point. Like,
yeah. I don't know. But I think certainly the teams that are going to be in that mix, are definitely going to be. I think Norwich are going to be in the mix. I think Watford will be in the mix. I think Southampton. I think Palace.
Mm-hmm.
Who was Brentford. Always the teams that come up, you suspect that they might be in the mix, but you do occasionally get a Leeds that surprise you. But I think a couple of the existing teams in that league could be away. I think Burnley could be in the mix as well.
Yeah.
Wolves, if they're not careful, could be in the mix. So there's a few teams that could be in the mix for relegation this season.
No, that's fair enough. Right, moving on to the last game on Saturday, we've got Norwich and Liverpool. Now, one of my favourite players that has come out of the scene, and wee Billy Gilmore, has now been moved to Norwich, and he was obviously one of our outstanding players at the Euros.
Yep.
I think that wee boy has got one of the best futures in football if he's going to stay fit. He doesn't really have many injury problems or anything as it stands. He's only 20. Did he just turn the past couple of weeks or months?
Yeah.
He's fantastic. Is he better than Liverpool? Can he carry Norwich to a win? Nah.
So from what I understand is Chelsea view him as their future.
Yeah.
They view him as a long-term replacement for Jorginho. Because he plays that number 6 role so well. And I don't care what anyone says, the number 6 role in football is vitally important. You need that recycler of possession. You need that guy that everyone can rely. He's going to always be there to take the ball. Whether that's in the defensive phase, in the transition phase, or in the attacking phase, you need that number 6 who can take the ball into his feet, turn and pass like this quickly. You need that player, and it's something Norwich probably lacked last time, because what was happening was they were getting the ball to their midfield, and their midfield was just getting overrun. They were getting broken. With a player like Gilmer, he'll stop that from happening as much. It'll still happen because you're up against really, really good teams, but a player like that will stop it from happening as much. He's a reliable midfielder. He gets the ball in midfield. It's the number 1 rule you're taught as a midfielder: protect the ball, don't give it away. If that means buying a foul, you buy a foul, whatever, and he'll do that job, and I think he'll do it really, really well for Norwich. It could be a coming of age season for Gilmer. However,
it's Liverpool.
They've got Van Dijk back. I guess my biggest concern about Liverpool is they've probably not strengthened as much as I would have expected.
Well, they haven't replaced Wijnaldum, which I think is a huge loss for them.
He's a big loss.
Yeah, like he's away to PSG now to play with bloody millionaires and the favourites to win bloody. They could win the World Cup if they try.
Players aren't millionaires. Man.
No, I was trying to say is that if you compare them to the PSG, is that every single player there, like the PSG is a completely different topic of conversation right now because they're even embarrassing Man City. But Wijnaldum was a vital player for them in the Champions League and in the league. in that
Yeah.
number 6 role as well. Obviously, he's not a guy that gets them many goals or assists. He obviously gets them time and time again, but not to the extent of your Salahs, your Manes. Even Jota looks to be looking a bit good now. Because I think Firmino is a great player, but I don't think he ever reached the potential that people expected of him. But he was more of a bring it down and pass it out type of player. But which is what teams need, because if you've got Salah and Mane, that's your job. Your job is not to score goals; it's to get it to them.
Yeah, exactly. I think Jota is going to be the guy that takes over the mantle as the sort of number 9, so to speak, as much as they don't necessarily play with a number 9. He'll find a way to get the 4 of those players in that team. I think if they can keep those 4 fit, I think they could do fine. I fancy Liverpool to win this one. I'm going to go 3-0 Liverpool.
3-0 Liverpool.
Yeah.
I don't think Van Dijk's going to keep a clean sheet in his first game back. That's my only thing.
You've invited me on to the hardest one because I don't have anything to go on. I don't have any form to go on,
and that's why it's fun. We're doing this in the same thing. Maybe
so
we'll have you back at Christmas time, and we'll do one there. We've got a lot more form on it.
That's fine. If I get made to look like a dick here, I'm not going to be happy.
I know, but to be fair, we've no data. We're only going off the Euros. I think Norwich are going to get a goal, just based on like Billy Gilmore, Kenny McLean, Grant Hanley, 3 Scottish boys, all coming in, all done all right.
That's your basis of them.
Oh man, I'm too patriotic for my own good, but I do think they're going to get. I just don't think Liverpool will keep a clean sheet because Andy Robertson's out to the middle of September. Trent wasn't playing his best football at the end, towards the end of the season. He had a couple of mistakes in him. Van Dijk's just come back, and obviously Liverpool had a few issues at the back when they brought in that guy from, is it Hoffenheim or Hertha Berlin?
Yeah,
they both wear blue kits. I can't remember which one it is.
It was Schalke they brought him in from.
Was it Schalke? Another blue kit one. I knew it was a German blue kit team.
Kabak, wasn't it?
That's the guy I'm thinking of, yeah. But I do think like they're probably going to concede a goal. But I do think they're going to win. So I'm going to go for a 3-1 victory to Liverpool.
You absolute shite pig. Going same amount of goals. Oh, come on, man.
Same amount of goal, but I just think they're going to concede a goal. I've got Trent in my fantasy team, so I don't really want to see that happen, but I still think Norwich will just get one in because they've done it against Man City 2 years ago. They won that game 1-0 with 1 shot on target versus City's like 27. But I don't think that's going to repeat itself. Okay, moving on to Sunday's games, we have the opening game of Newcastle versus West Ham. Now, with West Ham obviously outshining any season I've seen them play in my lifetime, getting Europa League football.
Well, no. Slaven Bilic did it a few years ago.
Did he?
Yep, first season.
But was this like the highest like West Ham's been though? They finished. They were almost in Champions League, weren't they?
West Ham?
Yeah, I think they finished 5th.
West Ham in the Champions League?
No, I'm saying they were nearly in Champions League at the end of last season. They finished 5th. They got knocked out in the last day when Chelsea pinched them to it, didn't they? Or was it Liverpool pinched them to it?
No, they were out way before that. It was a few games to go. Nah, it was a few.
I think it was the last game of the season.
I
think so. It was. Someone check that for me.
Check,
but
please.
Yeah, but we've got Newcastle versus West Ham. Newcastle obviously have signed Willock now. Well, it's not 100%. It's like 99% there. They couldn't agree personal. Yeah, they couldn't agree personal terms, and now they have agreed personal terms for 25 million. Obviously, was it 7 goals he scored consecutively, and he scored 8 in his entire time there. Whatever, he was unbelievable for them, to be fair.
He was pretty good.
Yeah, and they've also got Callum Wilson, who is very injury prone with his dodgy hamstring.
A good player.
Good player in his day, but if he just doesn't stay fit for a full season, I don't think he's done that in at least his professional career.
Yeah.
This one's more of a tough one. I'm going to go for. We haven't picked a draw yet, and I think this one's going to be my 1-1 draw.
I'm going for a draw as well.
Yeah. It couldn't be more of like that is a draw.
I'm going to go 0-0.
0-0.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what you want in your Super Sunday. You're out having your pints in the pub, and it's a 0-0 draw.
That's what I'm thinking.
It's going to be a 0-0 draw, though, or it's going to be a draw. You might get one each.
You've said
Right,
one
we
each.
can. Yeah, I've got one each. You've got 0-0.
That's fine.
But yeah, that's just one of them games you look at it, it's like that could be a draw.
Yeah.
Looking back at it, there could be another draw between maybe Burnley and Brighton. Maybe I thought a bit too much with a 3-1 Burnley, but I'm still going to have faith in what I've already picked. I'm not going back to change it now.
No changes.
Not can I go back in video now? Caught in 4K, as they say. Right, moving on to the weekend's main event was Spurs versus Man City.
Yep.
Now, this is one of them ones it's impossible to call because obviously City have lost an FA Cup and a League Cup and the Champions League. They've lost 3 trophies in a row, but absolutely smashed the league.
Mm-hmm.
Can they repeat that again? And Spurs have not won a trophy in 50 years or something.
Nah, they won 2009. They won the League Cup.
Did they? I didn't even remember that. So yeah, and I don't think Kane's going to play this game. I think he was angry that he might even be on the roster. It's one of the rumor sites. This one's just got to be City. I still think. I know they're coming off 3 trophies or 3 finals in a row, but when it comes to the league, they know what they're doing.
Has to be City. No, they won I'm pretty sure they won the League Cup. Did they not?
Not the League Cup, Charity Shield. I meant to say the other day they lost against Leicester.
Yeah, I fancy City for this. I think all day long. I think I really actually don't like the way Spurs are treating Harry Kane. I think the reason Kane signed that contract is because he loves Spurs, and for when or if he did decide to go, he wanted Spurs to get a lot of money for him.
Yeah.
And I think it suits clubs. It suits clubs to have managers under players under contract, and it sometimes suits them to be out. It's clubs only ever think about what's best for the club, and I get it, but we can't really get mad at the player about thinking about what's right for the player. I think nobody can accuse Harry Kane of not doing right by Spurs. He stayed there till 28. I mean, this is a world-class player.
Yeah.
Playing some of the prime years of his career at a club that, let's face it,
won't win a trophy.
They're not a top club. They just aren't. And he, if anything, he's been too loyal. 25's the age you want to be looking at moving. That's the sort of age, and I think he owes it to himself as a professional footballer. He's done the Spurs thing. He's been unwaveringly loyal to them. He's been a tremendous player for them, and I think he deserves to go and have that individual success. And I think if Spurs block that from happening this season, I think it's a disgrace. I think people will say, disgrace, he's under contract, he's getting paid loads of money. But it's about professional pride, and they're going to try and deny him that. Bearing in mind, there's no doubt in my mind he's had a gentleman's agreement with Levy, and Levy's been quite sneaky about it.
I was about to say, I think he's the rock behind it that's sort of causing the issues. It's not Nuno.
Of course he is.
But he's like, oh no, it's not me. But he's one of the most corrupt CEOs in the whole country.
I don't know if he's corrupt, but he's certainly
I'd say everything's on the books, but not public.
What I would say is certainly my understanding of what's going on with this gentleman's agreement is there was a gentleman's agreement. Levy is not denying that, but the narrative he's going with, you can leave, but only if they meet this ridiculous valuation.
Yeah. And then the Jack Grealish thing's just bumped that up as well, because he was going to go for about 110 million or something, and then Jack Grealish goes for 100, and he's like, right, okay, you can cash in more than that now.
Well, apparently they want 160. But I think that's unreasonable. Anyway, sorry, back to matters.
The scores.
I don't think that situation will be doing the camp.
No, I agree.
We've seen it at Celtic.
Yeah.
Players want to go, and how that is just toxic for a set of players. It's toxic for the camp. I can see Spurs having a really difficult season this season. I think stuff like that can seep its way through players. And I think they're going to get turned over this weekend. I think they're going to get beat 4-0.
That's a big score. I wasn't thinking that big. Because I do think City have obviously improved bringing in Jack Grealish. I think Phil Foden's injured at the minute. Not anything serious. I just don't think he's going to make this game week. they're City's defence. Obviously, John Stones just signed that 5-year contract, bringing him there to like 2026, which like he's a great player. And like even sometimes not bringing in a player, but solidifying who you've got
Yeah,
for a long time is just as good as a signing, which
yeah,
is
I agree.
fantastic. Diaz is phenomenal. Cancelo was unbelievable. Obviously, their left back position is like it's still Mendy, who is unbelievable. But that's the only position I can see them slightly improving on. But who do you even replace him with? It's
I
only when you
genuinely,
compare to them.
if I were them, I'd have gone for Tierney.
Yeah, I know, and it hates me to say it, but Tierney, obviously, his only doubt is that he is injury prone. But
Yeah,
that's it. But you can't really not take him. He's
I mean,
fantastic.
Mendy's had his fair share of injuries.
He is, to be fair.
Yeah.
Tierney's going to be the future Arsenal captain if he stays there, but I don't see him staying there. I could see him go to one of the bigger clubs. But based on that, I think only thing that Spurs really have going for them is they've still got Son, who's obviously he was that him and Harry Kane shared a lot of the goals last year. Harry Kane taking the majority, but you would expect that. I don't see him getting past that Man City defense on his own.
No, I
I
honestly, I can see Spurs. I can see them getting turned over this weekend. I don't
yeah,
think they're. Look at their hunt for the manager. Look at
mm-hmm.
how long that took, and did they land the man that they wanted? No,
No, they took
absolutely
who was
not.
available.
They've took a guy who gets sacked. Who gets
Yeah,
sacked. As
he gets
much as I
sacked.
said, I don't
Yeah,
think he should have. I think Wolves should have hung on to him. But the reality is, he gets sacked for Wolves and Spurs. I mean, how many people did they approach before now? He nearly signed with Crystal Palace.
yeah,
And he was nearly the Crystal Palace manager, and it
yeah.
fell through at the last minute. That's the sort of that's the sort of level we're talking about here with the Spurs. Well, the very high profile attempt to get Mauricio Pochettino back to
I
the
was about
club.
to bring that up. Yeah, like they're trying to bring back a manager they sacked.
Pathetic.
That shows how bad of a shape they were and how lack of choice. They were just not really ambitious. There were so many other people they could have went for that
I think it
were
also
out there.
points. It also points to the fact that they should never get rid of Pochettino. I think it's very clear what happened that season. There was an air around that place
Yeah,
of just depression after that Champions League final defeat.
yeah.
They just couldn't quite shake it. But I'm sorry, see if there's any manager in that history that deserves a write-off season. They weren't going to get relegated.
It's Pochettino.
They weren't going to get relegated. It just
No,
wasn't going to happen. They might have had a bottom half finish. It might have been
yeah,
a disastrous season for them where they just had this dip, and that's when that's when you need to give that manager that backup. You need to say, right, let's galvanize this squad. Let's get rid of some of the dead weight. Let's get some fresh legs in, and that changes a team. And I think Pochettino, if he'd been given the time and the resources to do that, he could have built another Tottenham dynasty. They could have went on and been even better actually. But no, instead they were having a bad season in the Premier League. They were. There's no
yeah.
getting past that. But Jesus Christ, like, come on, man! If anyone, like, I think there's some managers in football just deserve a write-off season
I
because
can
they
think
the
of
worst
three.
season ever.
I can
Aye,
think of
who?
three. I can think of Ranieri, the guy, obviously the Leicester manager, when he won the league.
Well, the problem with that is they did look as if they were going to get relegated.
Yeah, but they got through in the Champions League. Like they got out of the
Shite.
group. Yeah, they got
Aye,
out of the group, and then it was
they-
like, come on, man, you're Leicester. You shouldn't even be here. You shouldn't even be. You shouldn't be getting on the plane. Like if you get relegated, it's fine.
yeah,
But
yeah,
like he's won, and Brendan Rodgers when he was at Liverpool, when he got to second, obviously Liverpool and challenged for years, and they got
yeah,
second, and then he got like 3 games in a row. I don't know
yeah.
if the Klopp thing was lined up beforehand, but I still think Brendan Rodgers should have been given a bit more time
No,
after
what he
doing
did
that.
get. Well, he did get, in fairness, see the season after they finished second, he did
Yeah.
get a full season, and it was a poor season.
Was it a full season after? I thought it
Yeah,
was that they finished second and then it was right after that.
no, no.
No,
So they finished second, right? And then he had a full season. I think they finished sixth or seventh or
right.
something like that, right? And then he did start the next season, and it was about 8 games into that season that they sacked him.
Oh, fair enough. Well, I can't really
Yeah,
say stuff. He came to Celtic and won as a quadruple, basically. Well, no, he won the
exactly.
he won the treble. He won the treble.
I was going to tell you to shut your face.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking it as a football fan. Like if you're a Leicester or sorry, a Liverpool fan, you might be a bit like, right, we still want a challenge. We just want to relive the Suarez getting 30 goals a season right away. But you've got to take patience. And now look at Liverpool. Two
Yeah.
years ago, they won their first ever Premier League title, obviously in weird circumstances with COVID, but they were the better team throughout the entire season. It was just a weird thing that they didn't get it. I realize I haven't even said my score for this Spurs City game, and we're way off on a tangent. But I agree that City is going to probably dominate Spurs. But I think I may just go one less than you, because I think City are just coming off a loss in the Charity Shield and obviously the Champions League. I'm just going to go for a 3-0 win to City. So I think that's probably realistic. I still think that Spurs are going to concede 3. Lloris is nowhere near the keeper he used to be going back a couple of years ago. But I don't think they're going to concede 4. I hope I'm wrong. I hope you actually take that one home, but I'm just trying to get points on the board.
Breaking news, Chelsea have officially re-signed Romelu Lukaku.
Right, so I now need to go and change my fantasy teams. Brilliant. That's the rest, because he's a shoe-in.
I might want to change my Chelsea score.
Well, he might actually play, won't he?
Yeah. What did I go for?
You went for 3-0. I have 5-0.
I'm going to stick with 3-0. Stick with that.
Right. So you've got one draw. Oh, you've got 2 draws in the Brentford, Arsenal, and Newcastle, West Ham. I've got 1 draw. The graphic will be up on screen now. If anyone's actually made it the 50 minutes into this video that was supposed to be 5, but I will post the full thing.
See, when you said 5 minutes, I was like, fuck off. There's no chance that's going to happen.
The thing is, though, me and you just don't shut up. Like, we could literally I could just go to you, Brentford, Arsenal, what's your score? And it wouldn't be as fun, but we'll keep it going anyway. But yeah, we'll tune in next week and see how well we done. I'll be posting it upline anyway. It was a pleasure having you on today. We've got quite a lot of scores there, a lot to chat about. Thanks everyone for watching, and make sure to check out Jonny's podcast. The link will be down in the description down below. The Fly Zapper podcast. And make sure to check out the episode I was on at Christmas, because kind of got a bit full. I think we drank about 6.